body's constantly trying to keep you comfortable and safe because we're wired for survival. There's nothing wrong with being comfortable to some degree, but growth happens when your environment is shifting. Things have to change and it gets uncomfortable. I'm trying to figure out what that is for me. What is the uncomfortable thing or environment that I need in order to thrive, even with the basic necessities? I wasn't actually really expecting to do anything today. I was expecting to just plan out some things and try to get a flow and a rhythm for what my content flow is going to be like now that I feel like I have a cadence of how often I want to have videos out on the channel, the short form content, the newsletter, all of that, as I'm gearing up for the reintroduction of Healing in Hindsight and everything that goes with it. Because while I'm getting this flow for the behind the scenes stuff, I still also have to get the flow of the refresh branding, updates to the site, and the big whammy, some recorded episodes of the podcast. Time is moving fast. I have been having a lot of thoughts and feelings and just feeling all over the place, trying to really hone in on what I want this to be and making sure that this is really it. I know that there's always going to be room to expand and to iterate and to make changes, but for me it feels like I've been spending the last couple of years really trying to not only define what I want this brand to be, but to have it encompass different parts of me, at least 80% of me. It's an aspect of myself that I choose to have exist elsewhere. What comes to mind is like my Twitch channel. Like, I'm not interested in trying to fuse Healing in Hindsight to encompass like my Twitch channel and stuff like that. That truly is just for fun. That is for me. That is just something that I enjoy doing, even though I haven't been consistent in doing that. If I make money doing it, great, but I'm not hard pressed for that. So that's a little different for me. I have been trying to figure out what my flow is, especially because I've put a lot of pressure on myself to not only create my job, if you will, but have it be financially stable. I'm not trying to hide that I am going to need money. I don't think that's something that anybody's ever trying to intentionally hide. Nobody just wants to be in your face about it because you don't want to seem like you're asking for a handout. And that's not it, which is why I'm really working hard to build avenues of not only passive income, where obviously being monetized on YouTube is one aspect. Liking and subscribing aids in being able to do that. It's a thing that you can do for free. The podcast, listening, and leaving reviews, there's all these free avenues that can help in generating income in other places. But it's hard to not just say out front, like, without these things, I'm not going to have any income. When you want to create content the way that you want to create content, a lot of times as content consumers, it's like, you work for me. It's always a tricky fine line. You want to appreciate the people that pay attention to what you're doing, and you do want to, or it can feel like rather, that you want to do stuff that they want to see without compromising what inspires you. I feel like I'm seeing a lot of that pop up lately. I don't want to just do stuff because strangers on the internet are asking me or sometimes even demanding me to do it. I want to do stuff that lights me up, and the people that it's for is what it's for. It's just a tricky spot. I don't think there's anything wrong with suggestions as long as it's clear that I'm still going to do what I'm going to do. So what you're suggesting doesn't really flow with what I want to do. Not to be rude about it or anything. It's just, it doesn't fit with what I want to do. I'm not going to do that. So the threat of people canceling you or being like, if you're not going to do that, then I'm not going to subscribe, or I'm going to tell everybody to not. It's just really frustrating sometimes being in the space where you are crowdfunded, basically. Instead of going the traditional business route, you're having to utilize all of these tools that put you in front of millions and millions of strangers and hope that they connect with what you're putting out there. I just find that funny because there was a time when that's not how it worked. People didn't have that kind of access to you. You had to pay for advertising, like truly, as in getting ads in papers and around local areas and things like that. Eventually, if you had enough money to do it on television, then you could do that. But there was no major way for people to really have just this real close-up access to you. The parasocial relationships that have formed from that, it's kind of scary. It really is. I have been struggling. As much as I'm trying to be present and in the now and enjoying what it is for right now, I also feel like it's important to prepare for those moments where, hey, you do blow up. Now people are combing through who you are as a person, what you've done online and all this stuff like that. They're looking for reasons to find cracks, as if you're not already sharing that you're human. I think that's part of why it can be really hard, because you're just wanting to exist, share what you share, and wanting it to be appreciated, but other people have other agendas. So it's always interesting with that. I'm trying to figure out what my new norm and what work looks like for me. I'm trying to be better about not only just taking care of myself, but putting in effort of, even though I work from home, I still want to get up, get dressed, do my makeup, do my hair. Even if I don't have anywhere to go, look like I got somewhere to go, because it does make it easier to do things like turn on my camera and shoot and create other types of content. It just makes you feel good. Especially when you're not feeling great. I was not feeling great this morning. Trying to create that consistency in that is a challenge. I think it's also because I'm also trying to create a level of comfort that I used to have when I was working for someone else. Leaning into the things that feel uncomfortable is what's going to get me places. It's what's going to get me to get traction in things, because it's not normal. Your body's constantly trying to keep you comfortable and safe, because we're wired for survival. There's nothing wrong with being comfortable to some degree, but growth happens when your environment is shifting. Things have to change, and it gets uncomfortable. I'm trying to figure out what that is for me. What is the uncomfortable thing or environment that I need in order to thrive, even with the basic necessities? I am realizing more and more that I have to create that uncomfortable environment. It requires me doing things differently. It requires me to push through and have more discipline on things that I normally would allow to go by the wayside. It means changing aspects of myself for the better, not necessarily changing who I am, but just the way that I may do things in order to continue to help me thrive in this new environment. It is absolutely terrifying, because I am my biggest critic. I am the person that has to drive this forward if I want to see anything come from it. I am the person that, if I don't do something that helps push things forward, then I'm also the reason why it got held back. We're focused on the things that we can control, right? It is really easy to want to hide away. It is really easy to want to give up. because it's like, wouldn't it just be easier if I just started looking for a job again? Even though it's really not that much easier. There's a lot of people that I know that, thankfully, in the midst of the layoff from my previous company, a lot of my teammates have found new jobs, and I'm so happy for them and so glad. But there are still a lot of people in general who aren't. I get on LinkedIn, I'm seeing recruiters openly admit if your experience is too high and you're applying for an entry-level position, some people are just completely skipping over you because we feel that if you are overqualified, you're going to get bored and you're not going to be willing to stick it out and you're going to want to jump ship. We don't want to invest in you if you're going to jump ship. I will say one thing I appreciated when I joined my previous company is I was supposed to be either a manager or in learning and development because that is what my background was very high in. I chose to step down because that's what I needed. Thankfully, we weren't in a job market crisis at the time, so it was understandable. I knew exactly what I signed up for. I was like, I understand that I'm stepping down from this. I understand that this is going to be my salary range, and that's okay. I'm not being responsible for a team, because I had 2 other offers that were in the leadership track, but I didn't want that at the time. I wanted to take a step back. Sometimes it really does feel like that's what I should be doing, because that's what I know. That's what I built my background in. That's what my resume says. That's everything that could get me to the 6-figure salary if I wanted to. Oh, now I pivoted into a marketing role, so now I got to start over from scratch. It's just everything about that sounds 20 times more stressful than what I'm doing. It just has guarantees. That's if I even get the job. I'm seeing people who I know and love and respect getting passed over, or who are fighting constantly to just find a role that will take them. Either they also got laid off or they need a change in their work environment because there is now a higher demand for roles, despite what statistics may say. It's almost as if companies are able to be like, now we can have whatever environment we want. Now we can go back to offering shittier benefits because people are desperate. So they'll take the undervalue because they want so badly to be out of either their previous situation or being unemployed, and unemployment only lasts so long. That's part of where the pressure for myself comes from, is I only have so much time to even get a small crumb of what I was even making, and have to do everything that I can to at least recreate the income that I was getting. That would be a great start. And that is my start. My start is, can I just make what I was making before I got laid off? I can go from there. And that's hard. That's really hard. I'm okay with that. I appreciate that. I'm glad that where I started gave me the motivation to create. I need a way to connect with that. I can't connect with what I was doing before anymore. It's not the same. If my heart isn't in it, if it does not feel good to me, if it feels like I am straining, and not just like, some stuff will have strain, don't get me wrong, but if at the core of what I'm doing, I'm not in it, I don't need to do it. I don't want to do it. I don't feel like I should have to continue pushing myself to suffer for something that I no longer connect with. So that's what I'm doing all this for. I'm really saying all of this to say that we truly have to be mindful and intentional of doing things that are best for ourselves. And that it's okay if our current environment, our current way of doing things isn't working, even if it's comfortable. And that it's okay to change that environment and make ourselves temporarily uncomfortable until it is. Just like a plant. eventually, especially if the conditions are right, it'll get over the shock of being moved. It is okay to make drastic changes to your environment, but as long as you're giving yourself the basic things that you need to push through, do that. And if it's a little uncomfortable at first to implement new things, that's okay.